Everybody. The top Democrat on the House Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, now planning to meet with the FBI about that redo. As for Chairman Nunes, the Republican, he says he's all for making the Democratic memo public. Question is when.
We actually want the Democratic memo out. We think it's ridiculous on the face of it. We think it's very political about how they attack myself. They attack Chairman Gowdy. They turn Carter Page into some super secret Russian spy. They talk about how Christopher Steele is a really, really good source when we know that he lied to the FBI.
Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harris picks it up from there live in Washington. Catherine, good morning to you.
Thank you, Bill. The ranking Democrat, as you mentioned, says he will meet with the FBI to go over the 10-page memo, which is more than twice as long as the Republican version. On the Sunday talk shows, Adam Schiff was pressed on whether the Democrats' memo contained national security information.
We're going to sit down with the FBI and go through any concerns that they have, and any legitimate concerns over sources and methods we will redact. But
did you do that before you submitted the memo, Congressman?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Unlike the Republicans, we gave the FBI and the Department of Justice our memo even before we took it up into committee.
According to this letter from the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the Democrats' memo was reviewed by the FBI and Justice Department, and they have highlighted sections of concern and used red boxes to show where the release of national security information would cause the most severe damage, Bill.
Also, the ranking Democrat laid into a senior Senate Republican. What happened there in that exchange? Well,
the Republican chairman of the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, who has direct oversight of the Justice Department and FBI, asked them, along with Senate Republican Lindsey Graham, to investigate whether the former British spy who compiled the Trump dossier lied to FBI agents about his contacts with the media and distribution of the controversial research. Steele told the British court that he briefed the Trump dossier at least a half dozen times to major American media outlets. We know now that at the same time he was offering that research to the FBI and the State Department. On the Sunday show, Schiff said the senator's criminal referral is really targeting the Russia special counsel, Robert Mueller.
It is part of the same effort, along with the chairman of our committee, to try to put the FBI and Bob Mueller's investigation on trial. It is a well-known defense tactic. When the facts look increasingly incriminating of your client, you try to put the government on trial.
Spokesman for Senator Grassley sent out a statement late last night disputing that claim and highlighting the fact that the criminal referral makes absolutely no reference to the special counsel Robert Mueller. And if Trump associates are prosecuted for lying to the FBI, Grassley says the same laws ought to apply to Steele, whose work was funded by the DNC and Clinton campaign bill.
Catherine, thank you. Catherine Harris.
It was clear from the development of the Democratic memo from the very beginning that they packed it full of sources and sitting at the House Intelligence Committee down at the bottom of the Capitol waiting to be redacted. If they really wanted to get it out, they'd be down there all day yesterday redacting it, getting it back over to the White House so that the public could know what's in it. We actually want the Democratic memo out. We think it's ridiculous on the face of it. We think it's very political about how they attack myself. They attack Chairman Gowdy.
Well, he certainly said a lot in that interview. That is Intel Committee Chair Devin Nunes saying a lot on Sunday with Maria. Nunes wants Americans to see what's in their memo. So when will we see it? This man wants to see it, too. He wants you to see it. New York Congressman Peter King, House Intel Committee. Sir, good day to you and good morning. Now, just back up one moment. You've seen the Democratic memo. Was there anything in there that was offensive, that gave away sources and methods, sir?
Yeah, there were a number of things in there that, and none of it changes the substance of the memo. I want that memo out. But there are some indicators in there which would show our enemies how we're tracking them, you know, different methods that we have. But that should be easy to take out without in any way changing the substance of the memo. I want people to see the substance of the Democratic memo because I stand with the Republican memo. Nothing in the Democratic memo disproves anything we've said. The fact is the Democrats used, or the FBI rather, and the Department of Justice used a memo paid for by the political opposition to get a search warrant, and without telling the court that. And that's the reality. No matter how they try to spin that, they never told them that Hillary Clinton or the Democrats paid for that dossier, nor do they show any underlying justification for the dossier.
It's a remarkable thing to see how much of a 180 you have with your colleagues on the Democratic side. And when we talk to you and we talk to others, it is completely the opposite. Here's Adam Schiff, and I'll ask you a specific question about this next one.
Sure.
The hypocrisy of this just kind of reaches out and grabs you by the throat. Here the Republicans write a memo which the FBI quite accurately describes as misleading and omitting material facts. The Department of Justice says it would be extraordinarily reckless to release this. And what does the president do? He says, I'm going to release it. Before I even read it, 100% I'm going to release it.
Well, I know you disagree with that, but I have a different question. Is Adam Schiff playing clean pool?
No, he's become Adam One Note. Everything the Republicans do is obstruction. Everything the Democrats do is pure, and he's totally misstating the facts. What he's saying there about the Republican memo, the FBI went through it with a fine-tooth comb. The director and 3 of his top aides, they could not find one fact that was inaccurate, and they cannot find anything that threatened national security. There was one small issue on identifying someone, and that was taken out. It had nothing to do with the substance of the memo, but they, at the end, the memo that was released did not have a factual error and did not have any inaccuracies, and it did not in any way reveal any sources or methods or threaten national security. Now, obviously, the FBI and the Justice Department did not want the memo to come out because they disagreed with the conclusion. But there was nothing in the memo that they could say was inaccurate. And that is where Adam is totally misleading and totally distorting the reality. The Democrats,
So
we don't care what their conclusion is.
You don't think he's being honest about this? That's what your answer says there, sir. Do you stand by that?
He's not being honest on that. He's not being honest on that. He's not being accurate, put it that way. Maybe he believes it in his own mind that he's so caught up in this that he automatically believes the opposite of what's true. But listen, I can say we've had any number of witnesses in before the Intelligence Committee, and before you can take your last breath after the interrogation is over, the questioning is over, the Democrats are out at the microphone saying how the witness didn't answer questions, the witness was misleading, the witness has to be called back. They're on their agenda, and I can tell you, Bill, I've said this time and again, I've been on the committee at almost all of the interviews, listening to all of the major witnesses, and I have not heard one word yet showing collusion. And if you go back a week or two ago, all the Democrats are talking about was all of the sources and methods that we were disclosing, all of the national security risks that were in our memo. When the FBI looked at it, they cannot find one. And now, Adam's totally shifted, and now they want their memo out.
Yeah, quickly, 15 seconds left here. I asked Marsha Blackburn this. I don't think the American people see a resolution to this. I don't know how much they care just yet, but I guess we'll find out. Is there an end to this story?
There has to be. It has to end because, first of all, it's interfering with the process of government. It's interfering with the president as commander-in-chief. And I would say the same thing if it was a Democratic president. This has to stop. Hopefully our investigation will be over soon. Hopefully Bob Mueller will finish his. And I'm confident from all that I've seen that there will be absolutely no evidence at all of collusion between the Trump campaign, between President Trump and the Russians or anybody involved with the Russians. If there's anything, and I'm not accusing them, there's more cooperation between the Russians and the Clinton campaign.
Well, we're on standby to see that Democratic memo when it's ready. Thank you, sir. Peter King, the Republican from New York.
Thank you.
Sandra.
So do they make changes to the memo, and does it become a new memo, or does ultimately the president then decide to release this memo? Clear some of this up for us.
Sure, Sandra. So if the Democrats' rebuttal memo hypothetically says that a highly placed intelligence asset attended a particular event in a particular country, in a particular location, at a particular time, which it does, I can figure out who that intelligence asset is. And if I can, our adversaries can. Those are the types of sources and methods that we're talking about. And the Democrats' memo has them all over the place. So those things need to be redacted and taken out. That can be done. Once that is done, then the Democrats' memo will be declassified and the people will see it. But it won't change the ultimate facts. The Democrats' memo doesn't say and can't say that Hillary Clinton, that the FISA court was told that Hillary Clinton, her campaign, and the DNC paid for this dossier, or that Christopher Steele, who put together the dossier, was desperate to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, or that same Christopher Steele had a personal relationship with the number 4 lawyer at the Department of Justice, Bruce Orr, and his wife, Nellie Orr, who did the research for the dossier at Fusion GPS. Those facts won't change.
Well, you just heard Devin Nunes say, look, we want this out. We obviously made that very clear unanimously. We want this to get out. It's become so very political, and Nunes calling the memo itself so very political. But talking about Christopher Steele, Devin Nunes says, here Democrats say he's a good source. Well, here's what Nunes said about Christopher Steele over the weekend.
Christopher Steele lied to the FBI, and I can't for the life of me know, when you have the House who said that, hey, this guy lied to the FBI, and you have the Senate who said this guy lied to the FBI, Christopher Steele, what is the Justice Department doing? Where is the prosecution of Christopher Steele? This is a slam dunk case.
He's calling it a slam dunk case, is it?
Well, here's what we know, Sandra. Christopher Steele was an MI6 agent. But we also know that when the FBI employed him, he violated their rules. He leaked his relationship with the FBI to the press. He leaked information about his dossier to the press. And for that reason, he was terminated. So I understand that the criminal referral has been made. I will say at the end of the day, the fact that he is a former British intelligence agent probably is going to preclude him from being compelled. I can't imagine that the Brits would ever extradite him. So these answers are going to have to come from folks at the FBI and the Department of Justice who handled Christopher Steele. That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of.
So if Devin Nunes asked that question of you, where's the prosecution of Christopher Steele? Your answer is what?
Well, it never comes from Congress. We have an oversight role, and we're bringing facts to light that will allow prosecutors to look into this particular process and if appropriate, bring charges against folks. As I said, compelling Christopher Steele to testify, I think, is going to be difficult.
So we're all left wondering what we're going to learn from all this. Who's going to be held accountable? And to bring this back to the politics surrounding the release of that memo. Ultimately, we heard from both parties, the point of the release of these memos was so the American people could decide for themselves. So how does this all end, Congressman?
Well, I think it's too early to tell. I do, at this point, think that we're on a path where the American people should see both of the memos. But remember, those are both just summaries, and they're both partisan to some extent. But there are underlying documents to these FISA applications. I'm one of just a few members of Congress that have seen them. And I think ultimately what we're trying to do for anyone that has had the opportunity that I've had is that we've seen abuses to the FISA process where people have taken powerful surveillance tools for law enforcement and counterintelligence that are vital and appropriate and necessary, but have used them for political agendas. And I think those facts ultimately need to come to light. That's how we restore faith and trust in the FBI and the Department of Justice that has been shaken with a lot of the American public.
Does this concern you, the back and forth that we've seen and the political nature of all of this?
Absolutely, because the FBI and the Department of Justice are supposed to be decidedly apolitical. They are not supposed to be the story themselves. So it is troubling. It's heartbreaking. I spent a good part of my career at the Department of Justice, and I'm more proud of that association than I am with the institution of Congress. But the only way we can restore people's faith and trust is to go through this very painful process, be fair and deliberate about it, but provide these answers so the American people can believe in our justice system again.
It's a tough pill to swallow for many of us. Congressman Radcliffe, thanks for coming on this morning.